Hi, boys and girls. How are you doing today? I'll tell them. We are having a big problem today, Sammy and I. We can't find our Sunday school Charlie pin. We have looked all around. We checked all the sheep, and we can't find it. We can't imagine where it went. You see it? You see the Sunday school Charlie pin? I see it. Do you see that we have some different friends with us today? We have a bear, and we have a lion, and somehow Mr. Lion took our Sunday school Charlie pin. You silly lion. Oh, you want me to tell the boys and girls that? Okay, I will. I'll tell them. Mr. Lion wanted me to tell you the story. Do you remember who this boy is? Do you remember? Only a boy named David. Well, one day when David was watching his sheep, and do you remember? Look real closely, really closely. Remember, he had his staff with him. That's his stick, his staff. And remember, he played a harp, and maybe he was sitting there singing one day. Well, one day, while he was watching his sheep, a big old lion came, just like our lion friend. And lions like to eat sheep. And David went and he grabbed the lion and he killed the lion with his bare hands. And then another time when David was watching his sheep, what do you think came? Do you have a little hint? A big old bear came. And David grabbed that big old bear and he killed the bear with his bare hands. He must have been very, very strong. Well, David loved his sheep, and David would do anything to protect his sheep. Do you see his staff in his hand? David would do anything to protect his sheep. He was very brave, and he was willing to take on any danger to protect his sheep. And that is just how the Good Shepherd is. Jesus protects us all the time. And he is even a better shepherd than David was because he watches over us all the time. Let's teach Mr. Lion. We'll put him right here so he can watch. Let's teach Mr. Lion how to sign shepherd. Remember, boys and girls, we make a V. We put our finger right in the middle, our thumb right in the middle, and then pretend like you're holding your sheep and you're cutting the wool. You're shearing the sheep, you're cutting the wool. Cut the wool. Shepherd. Shepherd. This is sign for sheep. Shepherd. You got it, Mr. Lion? Shepherd. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. John 10 and verse 11. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. John 10 and verse 11. Okay, now you big boys and girls, Good shepherd. Good shepherd. Ready to try it? I am the good shepherd, the good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. John 10 and verse 11. One more time. I am the good shepherd, the good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. John 10 and verse 11. Oh, are you excited? Charlie's visiting. Charlie, Red, and Preston are going on a trip. And do you remember where they're going? Oh, they're so excited. They're going to spend a few weeks, can you imagine, at Shadow Mountain, and they're going to be visiting Charlie's grandpa and grandma. And they are so excited. And grandma and grandpa are just about as excited as they are, because grandpa has a very important job for Charlie, Red, and Preston, because grandpa has a sheep farm, a sheep ranch, and he is going to let Charlie, Red, and Preston learn all about caring for the sheep, but especially he is going to have them help him train a new sheepdog. Remember, Grandpa's sheepdog is getting older, and he can't take care of the sheep. He's just not as fast as he used to be, and Grandpa has to get a new sheepdog, and it's going to need trained. And he's going to let Charlie, Red, and Preston help him train the sheepdog. Well, they go to visit this lady because there was an ad in the paper, and they want to see her dog. She has a dog for sale, and in fact, she's given it away because she just, well, we'll get to that. Anyway, they walked around the back of the house to see the dog, and do you remember how shocked they were? They had never seen such a mean, fierce, dirty, growly, nasty dog in their lives as this dog. I mean, she was nasty. And as soon as the dog saw them, she jumped up and lunged at him, and you could see the chain, the heavy chain they had on her neck and on her foot, because remember, she kept jumping over the fence and scaring the neighbors. She would scare the neighbors. She would scare me. Well, the lady explained to Grandpa that the dog was 2 years old, and she got the dog when it was just a puppy, and it was fine then. But it's crazy now, and I can't do anything with it. I'm going to have to take it to the pound. Oh, that's so sad. Well, the phone rang, and so the lady had to go in the house, and Grandpa and the boys just kind of looked, and the dog growling at them and mean. And Charlie said, Grandpa, you can't even be thinking about seriously taking this dog home. And Grandpa said, Charlie, she just needs some time to trust us. We have to be patient. You know how patient Jesus is with you? We have to be patient with this dog, and we have to at least try. So when the lady came out, Grandpa made her a deal. He said, I'll take the dog for a few weeks. These boys are here to help me. We'll take the dog for a couple weeks, and we'll try to train her. But if I can't train her, we'll bring her back, and you can take her to the pound. And the lady said, it's a deal. And they shook hands, and Grandpa very gently, and the dog growled the whole time. And Grandpa talked so gently. Oh, it's okay, lass. It's okay, girl. It's okay. And he put a nice soft collar on her and took that heavy chain off of her and very gently put her in the back of his pickup truck and took her home, put her at a nice clean dog house, and gave her some nice fresh food and some fresh water. But all Lass could do was her, and growl, and she wouldn't eat, she wouldn't take the food, And they tried again in the evening, and she wouldn't eat. They tried the next morning, and Grandpa said, boys, we have to do something. The dog's going to starve to death if we don't do something. What do you think we should do, Grandpa? But he wasn't expecting what Grandpa said. Charlie, I'm going to let her loose. You're going to what? I'm going to let her loose. You mean just to run? Grandpa, she'll eat us. No, I don't think so, Charlie. What if she bites somebody? Well, there's nobody around, because there was nobody around Grandpa's house. He kind of lived out all by himself, and there was Shadow Mountain and a forest, and there weren't really a lot of neighbors, so it would be pretty safe. Are you sure, Grandpa? She has to come to us on her own. She has to trust us. It has to be her choice. Just like Jesus doesn't make choices for us. We have to decide to follow Jesus, Charlie. And Lass has to decide to trust me. Well, the boys weren't going to trust Lass, so they went over to where the horse corral was, and they climbed up on a really high fence because they didn't want to be around when Grandpa let Lass loose. So he went over and he unloosened her collar, and off she ran. Now, right at the bottom of Shadow Mountain where Grandpa lives, there was kind of a forest, a lot of like Christmas trees, pine trees, and it was real thick in there. And Lass just took off, disappeared. Well, Grandpa and the boys went about their chores. They took care of the sheep. They fed all the animals. They did everything they were supposed to do. They came in for lunch, and every time they went out, the boys called for her, Lass, Lass, but she never came. So that evening, when they had their chores all done and they were going in for the night, Grandpa saw her. Can you see where Lass is? There was a big pile of rocks over near Grandpa's house, and Lass was just over there staring at them. And Grandpa tried to call to her, hey girl, hey Lass, and boom, Lass disappeared back into the forest again. Now Grandma had been watching all of this from inside the house, and she came out and she said, Grandpa, I think I have a good idea. Let's take some fresh food and some fresh water, and let's take it over and we'll put it on those rocks, and we'll go in the house and we'll see what happens. Well, Grandpa thought that was an excellent idea. So they got the dog food, they got the fresh water, they took it out, they put it on the rock, and they all went inside and watched. And they peeked out the window, and it seemed like they waited forever. But finally, out of the forest, they saw Lass. And Lass saw that food, and Lass was pretty hungry. So she went over and she looked at the house. And she ate a little bit of food. And she looked at the house. And she drank a little bit of water. And she looked at the house. And Grandpa and the boys just watched. And Grandpa saying, good girl, you eat, good girl. And when Lass was done eating, whoo, she ran back out in the forest again. So Grandpa and Grandma did that every day. They put the food out on the rock, and in the evening they put some more food and water out on the rock, and every day Lass would come. Now she wouldn't come to them, but she would come to the rock, and she would eat her food and drink her water. Well, the one day when Charlie, Preston, and Red and Grandpa were out tending the sheep and getting some stuff done, Grandpa motioned to the boys to be quiet. He said, shh, boys, shh. Now, the boys weren't really loud because they knew Grandpa had taught them that when you're around sheep, you need to be very quiet because they get very scared very quickly. So the boys weren't being loud. They were just kind of talking, but Grandpa told them to shh, 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 shh. And they looked, and Grandpa pointed. What's he pointing at? Look. They looked over, and there on a ledge was Lass. And oh, she was sitting oh so proud. And she was watching those sheep, tilting her head, watching the sheep. And Grandpa was so excited. He said, "Look, boys, maybe there's a good sheepdog in there after all." But as soon as Lass saw that they saw her, whoo, back off into the forest again. But it's a good sign. Like she didn't go down and try to eat the sheep. So that was good. Well, that evening, when they were gathering the sheep all up, they just stopped for a minute to rest. And Preston and Red and Charlie just sat with Grandpa. And it was so beautiful. It was a beautiful evening. It was warm and sunny. And the mountains looked so beautiful. And they could see the trees from the forest. And look how many sheep Grandpa has. Man, he has a lot of sheep. And it was so beautiful and so peaceful. And Charlie said, "You know, Grandpa, I can't imagine that heaven is any more beautiful than it is right here on your farm." And Grandpa kind of chuckled. He said, "You know, Charlie, it is really pretty on my farm. And I love to sit here in the evening and watch my sheep." He said, "But the Bible says that we can't even imagine how beautiful heaven is. As beautiful as this is, Charlie, heaven is 1,000,000 times more beautiful because our good shepherd is there." And Charlie, Red, and Preston, isn't it wonderful that Jesus came to die for our sins so we could go to a wonderful place like heaven? He certainly is the good shepherd, isn't he, Charlie? And the boys were just taking in how quiet and how beautiful everything was. And they were closing their eyes, and you could almost go to sleep. It was so quiet and peaceful. But then Grandpa just sat up really fast, and the boys saw it, and they froze. They were terrified. Oh, no! Could this possibly be happening? What do you think happened? Well, I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to come back next time and hear what happened on that quiet evening on Grandpa's sheep ranch. Now, before we go, let's do our verse one more time, and then maybe we'll sing just a shepherd song before we go to bed, okay? All right, ready? I am the good shepherd, the good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. John 10 and verse 11. I am the good shepherd, the good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. John 10 and verse 11. One more time. I am the good shepherd, the good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. John 10 and verse 11. Okay, let's sing. This is a song you might know. And let's pretend. We're going to pretend a little bit. You like to pretend? Let's pretend we're with David and we're sitting, or maybe even with Grandpa. And we're sitting in that field and it's beautiful and it's sunny and it's warm. And we're singing a song to Jesus. Now, you might know this song. Listen to it one time, and if you know it, you can sing it with me the second time, okay? The Lord is my shepherd. I'll walk with him alway. He leads by still waters. I'll walk with him always, always. I'll walk with him always, always, always. I'll walk with him always. Okay, can you pretend? Can you pretend you have your sheep? I'm going to grab my sheep. And you're sitting in the fields and you're watching your sheep and you're singing with David. Okay, ready? The Lord is my shepherd. I'll walk with him always. He leads by still waters. I'll walk with him always. Always, always. I'll walk with him always. Always, always. I'll walk with him always. Well, boys and girls, you have a good night. And remember when you go to sleep tonight that you have a good shepherd who is watching over you all the time when you're scared, when you're lonely, when you're just feeling sad. You have a good shepherd who loves you more than you could ever imagine. And Miss Kathy loves you too. And please come back tomorrow so we can find out. Maybe it's a bear. Maybe it's a lion. Maybe it's a dinosaur. You come back tomorrow night and we'll find out what happens on Grandpa's ranch. I love you, boys and girls. Be good for Mommy and Daddy, and we'll see you tomorrow night.